All right, let's call this meeting to order, or try to. And that is the Tuolumne County Transit Agency. We're looking at that agenda. And this will be that opportunity for oral communications to allow the public to speak on any item not on the printed agenda. All right, we're going to move to the consent calendar. Oh, I saw somebody, I thought they were pulling a Duke. Item 2, approval of the September 13, 2017 meeting minutes. And item 3, adopt resolution 44-17, reauthorizing the executive director to sign, submit, and execute applications, agreements, and related documents to receive federal and state funding.
Chairman, I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion second. Any public comment on these items? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I will abstain on the minutes since I was not.
You can approve them as long as you read them.
I haven't read them.
Okay. So we have one abstention. Okay. Regular agenda, item 4, update on the completion and grand opening of the Tuolumne Transit Center.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to let Tyler Somerset cover the next 3 items.
All right. Thank you. So almost exactly 1 year after starting this project, we've just about got the bow wrapped up on it. Our contract with F&H Construction is substantially complete. All the punch list items have been done, and they are officially off-site. The TCTA had 2 outstanding contracts, one to polish the floors, that has been completed, and another to Maker Metals, a local outfit, to make all the furniture for the exterior of the property and part of the interior. That furniture is being delivered Friday, and then again the remaining bit next week, so we're excited about that. We are county IT and facilities folks are helping to tie up some loose ends, just as far as getting the wireless internet up, protecting the thermostat, things of this nature. Again, loose ends, so we're excited. Currently, there's a gate out there at the end of Justice Center Drive that is at this point locked at all times. A few key personnel have the ability to come and go onto the property to help us complete the structure. And that will remain there through the opening of the facility, where our drivers will, at the beginning of the day, open the gate, and then at the end of the day, lock it down until we have a contractor on board to build the new justice facility at the new jail. Yeah, thank you. So that will change at that point, but until then, that will kind of be the operating procedure. So we are pleased to announce that on October 30th at 12 p.m. we will have a ribbon cutting ceremony on site for members of the public that are interested in joining. They're welcome to do that, and we will have a transit trolley vehicle that leaves Courthouse Park before the event and heads out to the event itself, and then brings folks back afterwards for folks who are interested. And then the next day, on November 30th, will be the first day of service at the new facility. And so we're excited to, November 1st, which is 2 days later. We have to have Halloween first. My kids will get on me for skipping Halloween there. So the ribbon cutting on October 30th, Halloween, and then Wednesday, November 1st, will be the opening day of the transit center and the first day of service there.
So I'm not going to be able to be there the 30th. Is there a possibility that I could go out and take a look?
I think we can facilitate that for you.
And how do the floors turn out?
I think they look very, very nice. It's a stark contrast now between the concrete on the in the common areas, and then you walk into the building, and it's a nice pop there, which didn't exist previously.
Mr. Chairman, if I may make one other comment. On November 1st, we'll be implementing new schedules and new fares we are going to also do some sort of opening for the public, but I would like, I do have authority to make small adjustments in our services and fares and whatnot. I'd like to go ahead and just have it with your consent, or a no fare day that day, so everybody can try out the new schedules and get used to the new, come on down, see the new facility. And we'll have staff on site to explain the new schedules and help people understand how the whole system has been updated.
This is on November 1st?
This will be on November 1st
Sounds like
only.
a good idea.
All right. Everybody good with that? Yep. Okay, sounds like you're in. Anything else on the Tuolumne Transit Center? We good? Any questions? Public comment? All right. Item 5, presentation of fiscal year 16-17 annual Tuolumne County Transit Performance Report.
So we check in annually with you to give you an overview of where Tuolumne County Transit Services are at. The fiscal year closed June 30th. So the overall report doesn't offer any surprises, although it is, unfortunate to report a 9.5% overall fare box recovery ratio. I think we have touched base with you several times throughout the year, letting you know that we were aware of some underperforming routes, but delaying the new fares and schedules until the opening of the transit center. So those more aggressive kind of changes that we would have ordinarily made were postponed to help with some downstream impacts for users and the constantly changing schedule, which we were trying to avoid. One change in this year's report, and kind of offers a positive note, is we have included this year details on the special event services and also YART services. And so you can see listed in here some of the major events that we serve in the community, along with the number of trips that were delivered and a kind of an overall cost to provide those services. So we're pleased to present that this year. And then also we have detailed the Yosemite service for you this year, and that's a true bright spot. And as you can see from the report, our growth from year to year has been substantial, and especially notable from let's see here, 2015 to 2016, and then 2016 to 2017. We really strengthened our partnership with the Tuolumne County Visitors Bureau during that time, and their Executive Director, Lisa Mayo. So we'd like to express a real gratitude for their efforts in really embracing the YART service and marketing it to the greatest extent possible. And we really credit this growth in large part due to their efforts, and of course YART's as well. With their implementation of the online booking, we saw huge increases as a result of that as well. The last item, just the Doddridge ski bus. We give an overview of what happened this last winter. It was a good season, so we're hoping for another wet year that really helps the ski bus have a successful season serving some of our local folks and lodging establishments. So with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions on the annual performance report.
On looking at the yards, it really dropped substantial from July to August, and I'm curious of the why. Did we have some camps closed, or?
My guesstimation, and I'd ask Lisa to consider weighing in on this, it's significant that it happens similarly every year, and so July really does seem to be the peak of the tourist season, and I don't know if that is related to school activities and families returning, but it has been a trend that we've noticed year over year. In the absence of a true answer, I'd throw that out.
You're not going to make stuff up.
Yeah. That's okay. I mean, I just, it is consistent, but it doesn't seem like in the Groveland area was any less busy. But something happened there that's happening all the time. I just trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe we could fix it.
Well, interestingly, and this is just anecdotal and kind of speaks to your point just slightly, we did have a survey in September through Yards, and they got on board, and they, were, asking all of our passengers, and it was a standing room only type of a day, and so. Two things. A, we do transition the number of buses that we're running, later in the season, so that would be part of it, although not in July. The other thing was there were still a substantial number of international visitors, that were identified themselves from, outside of the area. So, again, doesn't get to the heart of your question, and we'll come back to
It's
you
something
with
to think about.
Yeah.
Are the falls still running? Do you know? I don't.
Yeah, just a little bit.
waterfalls.
Just a little bit.
Well, I'll be in Yosemite tomorrow, so I'll let you know.
I'm looking at the
yeah.
numbers, and I'm just,
Send you a picture.
yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, this year in August, the falls were definitely still running.
In August?
They
Okay.
were.
And when will we know the numbers in September?
So that's a great question. Bjart's just sent me an email just before the meeting. We had 1,367 rides for September 2017. So you can pencil that in. So that brings us to a grand total of 16,739 rides and a 71% increase in ridership over 2016. I might note, since I'm already sharing percentage increases, that from 2015 to 2016 was a 79% increase. So our partnership with the Visitors Bureau
It's working.
really paying dividends.
Darn, I was thinking maybe you set a record, but
Yeah.
apparently you set the record last time.
And that'll be important for an agenda item later that's coming up later.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I did have a question. On the fare box ratio, I see that elimination of Route 6 is a strategy to get that ratio up. What if that doesn't work? Are we looking at other routes? I see Route 2 is the lowest. Or is there other strategies that we have to meet the 10%?
We're going to watch it closely. Our next step that we may take is looking at our transfers. We do have a bit of a fare evasion problem associated with transfers. They're a bit of a challenge for our transit drivers to track, and people, of course, learn how to manipulate the system. So we may do away with free transfers. That would be the next step we would probably do.
Okay.
Route 2 is a mystery to me, frankly. It was historically a really well-performing route, and I'm not sure why we don't have as strong a ridership on that route anymore. But we used to go into the junction a bit more on Route 2, and that's one of the changes we're going back to. So that may play into it.
Yeah.
And the way we changed the routes too, you may see more people on Route 1 kind of doing a trip that used to be associated with Route 2. So we are tweaking in that regards to serve the junction better with Route 2.
Cool. Good.
Okay, any other questions?
I just have one. Are we on track to do the bus service to Pinecrest this coming summer?
We are. We do need to do some coordination with the ranger up there and whatnot, but as far as the funding goes and part of our work plan, we're on track.
Any public comment? All right, seeing none, move on to item 6. Presentation of transit schedules to take effect November 1, 2017.
Yes, thank you. So each of you have a copy of what our new schedule will look like here. 3 major changes, and I'll go through those, and then a lot of minor tweaks, as Darren alluded to here recently, with returning some service to the junction that wasn't there before. But we did try, in large part, to keep the routes that were working well, with as few changes as possible. But the first major change, as you'd anticipate, is all the routes now go to the new transit center. And that's a huge advantage for us because previously we were transferring in 3 different locations within the city and county, the Junction, Walmart, and down at Courthouse Park. And from an efficiency standpoint, it's just a subpar way to do it. So we're excited now to have all of our routes convene at the same time at the transit center and be able to exchange passengers to get to their final destination. Second item, as was noted, is that we are eliminating Route 6. This was a tricky area for us, East Sonora, Crystal Falls, Sonora Meadows, Phoenix Lake Estates, those areas where you've got kind of larger lots, a lot of folks, so we need to be there. So we have eliminated that route and we've replaced it with a general public dial-a-ride. And so we anticipate that being a more efficient way to serve that area, and have already been in communication with a lot of folks who are living in that area and, you know, are looking forward to the new service. And then the last item is we're implementing the fare increases. This is for general public fares only. The discounted rates will remain unchanged. So the standard general public fare will go from $1.50 up to $2. And then there will be some slight increases in the day pass and monthly pass amounts, reflecting that change from $1.50 to $2. So those are the major changes that you'll see in the new schedule, in addition to kind of a revised layout and format. And we are excited to present these and to take advantage of the new transit center and to get some, feedback on how they're working and serving our ridership as early as possible.
Just a couple questions, more for the listening audience, but can you kind of go over the hours of operation and dial-a-ride, and then how do people find out when the routes are going to be at a particular stop, or what's the easiest way?
Okay. So we've got 2 main services that we offer. The first is fixed route service, and that serves the entire county, everywhere from Columbia, Jamestown, Sonora, Tuolumne, Sierra Village, and points in between. And the unique thing about a fixed route service is there are scheduled times when the bus will be at a particular stop. The schedules can always be found at tuolumnecountytransit.com and downloaded from that location, or picked up on a bus from the driver. So typically what happens is you meet your bus at the bus stop at the indicated time. One unique thing about Tuolumne County Transit and our rural nature is that you can also flag a bus, and so that means if you're in a safe spot along the route and you make yourself available visible to the driver, they can stop and pick you up. The other item you'll see on the schedule is called an on-demand stop, and that means we will go there if we get a request from that location prior to the bus coming through. The other type of service we provide is called dial-a-ride service, and that's available to folks who qualify for that program, including seniors, those who have American with Disabilities Act card, veterans, and other qualifying folks. But that service is a bit unique in that the passenger calls and makes a reservation with our dispatch, and then they have a 30-minute window that the bus has to pick them up and deliver them to their location. That's a $3 each way service versus $1.50 for fixed route service. And again, all these details are available at Tuolumne County Transit or by calling 532-0404.
Any public comment? All right. Looks like item 7. Thank you, Tyler. Thanks for Authorize staff to attend the May 2018 IPW event to represent public transportation interests to Yosemite National Park.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as you probably know, we get a grant from Yosemite National Park that we are the lead agency and we administer. It's about $50,000 a year. And we work with the gateway partners such as Mono County Visitors Bureau, Mariposa, Madeira, and ourselves to implement a marketing outreach program to encourage people when they visit Yosemite to ride yards into the park. I think this is a big part of why you see the numbers for yards have gone up so much in recent years. Tyler's been the one who's directly engaged in implementing a lot of those marketing efforts on our corridor, but leading the charge for all of the partners on the gateway. So we've been requested, or at least that group asked that Tyler represent Yards at this major tourist travel industry function that happens in Denver, Colorado each year. We have gotten authorization from the park that they will allow the funds that we get for marketing to be spent on the booth and whatnot at the conference. But as far as Tyler's travel goes, that can't be used with those funds. So what we're working towards is a shared cost of Tyler going to there with the other gateway partners, and we're hopeful that will bear fruit. Lisa Mayo, from the executive director of the Visitors Bureau, is here. She may have more information about the event, but we do think it will benefit our ridership and benefit Tuolumne County as a whole by his attendance there. And this is an out-of-state travel item. I don't recall us ever doing out-of-state travel, so consistent with county policies, we're bringing it forward to the board for your consideration.
Tyler, anything to add?
I might just add that this is a massive event. It's the largest kind of international event of this nature held on American soil, and so you have tens of thousands of operators who are putting their packages together for that upcoming year. So the strategy is if we can get information about riding public transportation into their hands early, they just build that into the tour that they're offering, or the trip that they're offering, or the package that they're selling. So again, I've never been. Everyone in the Gateway marketing team has said this is a huge opportunity for Yards to have a booth. They've never had a booth in the past. So thank you for considering.
Yeah, it's interesting because people in our county don't know what a good transit system we have already, and when you look at the Yards use, we know that a lot of it is European, out of state, and I think the more that we can let people know that that is there, the more beneficial it'll be, not just for Yards, but I think that they can come here to Sonora, stay in Sonora. They can get around the county on our transit. Primarily, they're looking at Yards, but letting the other people know that we have a good transit system, I think, is an important, not just for the summertime, but we've got the ski bus to the ski slopes. It just makes sense to get the word out there.
Thank you.
I think anytime we get a chance to have that kind of exposure to is this a worldwide thing or just United States? Worldwide.
Yeah, worldwide.
Anytime we get a chance to do that kind of exposure, I think we have to take advantage of it.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Plus, Colorado's a nice place to visit.
Easy, I was just there last month.
You liked it?
It was too short. But yes, had a great time. All right, any other questions? Any public comment? All right, seeing none. I tried, gently. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we authorize representation at the IPW event.
Second.
I think George got there first. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. With that, reports.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just one brief report. Laura Shin of our office will be attending the California Association of Coordinated Transit on November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in Monterey. So it's a conference that we regularly go to. This year, we're going to stay behind to help get those new schedules and the new transit center kicked off and let Laura go. She's great on the accounting and budget world, but certainly this would help her learn more about transit and how it relates to those numbers that she works on. That's it.
Carl, anything here? No. Okay. All right, seeing none, we'll adjourn the Tuolumne County Transit Agency. All right, with that, we will convene the Tuolumne County Transportation Council. This would be that time for oral communication to allow the public to speak on any item not on the printed agenda. Seeing none, oh boy, we'll go to the consent calendar. All right, hang on here. Item 2, approval of the September 13, 2017 meeting minutes. Item 3, adopt resolution 574-17, amending the fiscal year 17-18 overall work program budget and OWP agreement to adjust carryover balances, reprogram funds, adjustment to allocate funding to accommodate a 10% de minimis to cover indirect administrative costs, and authorize the executive director to execute the revised OWP funding agreement. Item 4, scheduled this year's unmet transit needs public hearing for December 13, 2017 at 3 p.m. and authorize staff to provide transit services free of charge to persons with no other way to access the hearing. And item 5, adopt resolution 573-17, reauthorizing the executive director to sign, submit, and execute applications, agreements, and related documents to receive federal and state funding.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Second. Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye with the, aye on the rest and with the abstention on the minutes.
Okay. Did you get that? Okay. Regular agenda, item 6. Approve the final draft of the Plug-in Electric Vehicle Coordinating Council Charter, Goals, and Mission for Central Sierra Zero Emission Vehicle Readiness Plan.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to let Alex Padilla present this item.
So one requirement of the Central Sierra Readiness Plan is to create a plug-in electric coordinating council to oversee the development of the grant efforts and provide technical review and expertise from each specific region. So as part of this coordinating council, there's a charter, a mission, and goals to guide the development of the steering committee members. So before you guys, we have the final draft of it, and the steering committee is composed of 5 members, including TCTC, the Alpine County Local Transportation Commission, the Amador County Transportation Commission, Calaveras Council of Governments, and Caltrans District 10. And TCTC would be is the lead administrator for this grant. So we are working with our partners to oversee this zero emissions readiness plan. So we recommend final approval so we can send this off to the Energy Commission as presented.
Just refresh my memory on how much is this grant for, dollar-wise?
The total grant is $200,000, and this grant is unique. There is no local match, so this is all funds we're getting directly from the Energy Commission.
Thank you.
Okay.
I guess I don't understand exactly what we're trying to achieve here. It looks to me like another hoop that we got to go through instead of making things more streamlined.
Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment. The state emphasizes having plans before they fund projects as part of that plan, that you've vetted the plan with all the stakeholders and got public input on those plans. The Energy Commission and the PUC as well have funding, as well as their ARB, for implementing electric vehicle programs in different regions. The Energy Commission has identified 120 as a high priority corridor, and next they're looking at 49 as a high priority corridor. So this will set the stage for us to then access a lot of funds to put in chargers. We'll identify locations that have been vetted with lodging associations and chambers of commerce and Visitors Bureau and other groups. That are logical locations for charging stations that meet all their protocols. And likewise, this will give us an opportunity to talk with public fleet managers that may want to convert some of their fleet to electric vehicles, and then identify which fleets are best for that, what are the charging facilities necessary to accommodate those fleets. It's kind of a multifaceted plan that kind of sets the stage for future grants.
So, sounds to me like the purpose is to access funds later on.
Yes, that is exactly right.
At what point do we try to work towards getting 108 on that list? Thank you. It's a big elephant in the room, isn't it?
49 will get us partially here.
Well, we can put it in our plan, right?
It's not, it'd be outside the scope of work. We're only allowed Highway 49. Well, wait a minute, let me ask Alex on that one.
So all these zero emission or plug-in electric vehicle charging sites, we're going to be looking at all the counties, so all throughout Tuolumne County.
Perfect.
And all throughout all the different regions, so 108 is definitely included.
Thank you, sounds good. Just didn't want it overlooked or missed. Okay, any other questions? Any public comment? Seeing none, whoop,
Sorry.
you almost caught me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to address Councilman Segarini's question, the only thing worse than putting strings on government money is giving government money away without strings. So essentially, the state would like assurances that the partners are in and that they're going to commit to, a long-term support for what's going on here. That's really what the requirement is.
Okay.
Can you say that one more time?
Oh, man.
Long-term support, just that part. What do you mean exactly?
Just that, you're getting money to plan. Number one,
We're committed
I'm
to.
Caltrans, and this is a CEC grant.
Yeah.
So I'm just speaking in general terms.
Sure.
On, the whole purpose for this body is that, you get state and federal funding, and the feds and the state want to be assured that there's a planning process going on.
There's a vision that it's applying to, not just willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's essentially what's
And
going on
long-term.
here.
And long-term, yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay. Any other comment? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move on recommendation.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Look like it. All right, item 7. Review the draft request for proposals, RFP, to procure a consultant to produce the Central Sierra Zero Emission Vehicle Readiness Plan.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. To implement the zero emission vehicle plan, we need to hire a consultant with proper expertise that does these plans. And the right way to do that is go ahead and do a request for proposals. And we would just seek your approval to solicit proposals from qualified firms. using and what would fund this, of course, is the Energy Commission grant.
This is funded by the Energy Commission?
That's correct.
Any other questions, comments? Nope. Any public comment? Seeing none, bring it back for a motion.
Move on staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item 8, review the new funding programs and additional funds available from California's recently passed transportation funding bill called the Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017, otherwise known as SB 1.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as you know, earlier this year, the state legislature did approve and the governor signed SB 1, which will, beginning in November, raise gas taxes and then phase in other tax increases, including weight fees, registration fees, diesel taxes, and the like. It's going to raise a very substantial amount of money into the future. It's going to be phased in over 3 years. But as you would expect, on any proposal to increase taxes, there are those that would like to rescind those taxes. And we know that our transportation sector has been largely underfunded for a number of years, given the constraints that exist when building projects or maintaining your transportation system. So we felt it was important for us to not only look at, on a statewide basis, how SB 1 benefits the transportation system, but look a little more closely to what's happening here in Tuolumne County. This information I'm sharing with you, I will put up on our website so the public can be aware of the more immediate benefits of SB 1 as they consider whether it's a good tax or not. And then also we'll probably come up with some sort of single-page summary of this information, then update accordingly as more information comes out. But just briefly, I'll roll through a couple of the major components of SB 1, and one of those is the Active Transportation Program. This is augments that program of about $80 million per year. This is primarily for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure programs, and we're happy to say that the City of Sonora is recommended for approval of a $722,000 project at Red Church. It will improve the geometrics at Red Church on Highway 49, excuse me. Likewise, we'll be applying for funds when they do the call for project roundabout January, February of 2018. We're currently working with the Caltrans group on putting together a county TCTC Caltrans jointly partnered project up on 120 in Groveland. There's going to be a public meeting on that later this month, I believe. We think that's a good project the community will really get behind. Likewise, we on a later agenda item will be discussing the potential for putting together a grant application for downtown Sonora Highway 49, working with Caltrans and hiring a consultant. So that would also be a very good project that potentially could improve safety for pedestrians in downtown Sonora, which we know has been there's heightened concerns about that in the last few months. Then I want to roll into the Regional Transportation Improvement Program. As you might recall, the Monoway Operational Improvement Project was pushed out of the last STIP because there wasn't enough money. That's the important project to improve safety in that area that's been relinquished to the county. We had a fatality out there not so long ago. This will provide shoulders as well as turn pockets where appropriate and repave the whole section. With new funding as a result of SB 1, we're looking at an additional $5 to $6 million available to Tuolumne County. This project will come back into the system. And we'll probably have reserve funds in our Regional Transportation Improvement Program, which is going to allow us to go forward with a project to widen Highway 108-49 through the Jamestown corridor. we're working with Caltrans to define the scope, schedule, and cost of that project right now. So that's good news. Likewise, we'll be able to move forward in a timely fashion with the ramps at Peaceful Oak on the Highway 108 bypass. The local streets and roads program is a major beneficiary of funding under SB1. The county's looking at receiving an additional $940,000 in the road fund, which is really saving them this year because of the problems with gas taxes. That they're it's going to stay even for this year, but that new money is very important to them. And that will increase over the next few years up to about $5 million per year. So that's a huge shot in the arm for local road maintenance that I know that our board members, city council members often get complaints about. And speaking of the city, they're going to get about $27,000 this year, and that'll grow to about $88,000 by the year 2027, according to projections from the League of California Cities. We also have a program that's adding $250 million called the Congested Corridors Program. They just released the guidelines on that program. It's a lot of pages to read, but in that, one thing that I noted, one not so good, one good. The not so good part is that it appears as though they're not going to fund what they call general purpose lanes added to the state highway system from this funding source. So that kind of eliminates like the 5-lane widening through Jamestown. We'll have to use more traditional funds to do that. But it also notes the possibility to use these funds on the local road system, particularly collector roads that have a benefit to the state highway, filling in gaps and whatnot. So in this case, we right away thought of potentially Greenlee Road extension or similar types of projects. It's a 20% local match on this fund. Unless Caltrans nominates your project, then it's zero match.
One project that we've talked about for a long time, I see Duke's here having his late lunch, is the issue with the congested 120 corridor through the town of Groveland and the possibility of having a back street for local traffic, the Hetch Hetchy right-of-way and stuff. I would hope that maybe that's something that we might look at as a possibility. It would mean constructing a new local street.
Connector.
That's what it would mean.
Yeah, I'm well aware of the project. I think it's a good project. It's in our regional transportation plan, but not in the funded list. This absolutely could be used for that. What I would tell you is you need to have a congested corridor plan. Caltrans is doing one for Highway 108-49 between Sonora and Jamestown. That'll allow us to qualify for these funds and compete for them. We should work towards doing something like that in Groveland as well.
Right.
It'll be important to document the level of congestion that you see in some of those high peak tourist seasons.
Sure. All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
And then there are sustainable planning grants, $25 million a year. We're certainly competing for those funds and have actually received $48,000 for a project to plan Highway 49 as a complete street all the way from Jamestown to Columbia. But here's a really big one. The State Highway Operational Program Shop. It's going to have an augmentation. I really don't know how much funding's in this, but by my estimates, it could be as much as $30 million a year on average. It goes up and down in Tuolumne County depending on what projects they do in a given year. We've certainly seen $80 million in a given cycle, and we've seen as low as $6 or $7 million in a year. $80 million when they're doing a big bridge like over Don Pedro. This is good news for the state highway system, and I think it's noteworthy that Caltrans is asking the TCTC to identify priority projects. They want to make sure that the money's being spent, not only what they see as important, but what the public up here sees important through us. So we've sent a list of safety projects that we recommend, and we're currently working on a list of operational improvement projects that the state will hopefully consider. And then finally, I just want to mention state transit augmentation. This year we got about $204,000 in our budget that allowed us to free up other funds for the RSTP exchange and whatnot. It'll go up to about $408,000. We don't have any major expansion plans of our transit system, so in all likelihood, what we'll see is most of these funds go into operating assistance, which will free up other funds that the local transportation funds, which when you don't need them for transit, and we always have, most years we have an excess amount of anywhere from 50 to a couple $100,000. We'll see more of that pass through the local road maintenance system. So that's good news. It's money for transit that will benefit roads and the way things are likely to work out here in Tuolumne County. And that's it. That's what we've got. We're going to, there is a fact sheet attached. There's no action required on this item, but again, you folks come into a lot of contact with other groups and whatnot. Please share the information. And we'll put it on our website, and we'll create a one-page handout on this as well.
What's the status of the Yosemite Junction intersection project?
They have actually decided to go forward with the high T design. That's official. And they had their first PDT meeting yesterday to kick it off, and they're starting into the environmental review and design and whatnot. So it's underway.
Had their first what meeting?
Excuse me?
What was they had their first what meeting? PTD?
Project Development Team meeting,
Oh,
kickoff meeting for that. And I want to say they want to be out to construction by 2019, spring 2019. So it's not too far.
A little under 2 years.
Yeah, they definitely like to keep safety projects at the 2-year mark as a maximum.
Yeah, we were coming home one weekend, and it wasn't even a holiday weekend, and coming out of Yosemite, the traffic was lined up again.
It all went through Grove, by the way.
Did it? Anyway, it was a little bit of a surprise, because normally I used to see it on the holidays or those weekends, and this was an off weekend, but it was still backed up quite a bit.
Yeah, what we're hopeful on is, that's a project that's been talked about. We've requested it for a number of years. That there's always this cost-benefit analysis that goes into it. It's their way of kind of keeping, they have a limited amount of funds, so they spend it on it where they'll get the biggest bang for their buck, so to speak. Hopefully that bar will be lowered a little bit with all the extra funding, and we'll see more and more projects that improve the safety in our system, thanks to SB1.
Okay. Any questions, any comments? Any public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, move to item 9. Approval of lead agency status and submittal of federal, national significant freight and highway project grant for Sierra Railroad and resolution supporting rehabilitating 55 miles of railroad to federal Class 2 standard.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Sierra Railroad, sure. The Sierra Railroad currently transports about 8,000 cars per year, which is equivalent to about 32,000 trucks a year taken off of the state highway system. I think it's fair to say that rail freight is more safe and a cleaner way of transporting freight as opposed to trucks on the highway. With some of the projects that are planned on the Sierra Railroad, they're expecting a 50% increase, and I think Paul Gruber, who's here with me today, will kind of elaborate on those things here in just a moment. So I want to note that we recognize in our regional transportation plan that the tracks, despite our efforts, we've had 7 projects over the years to help the railroad with various grant programs to improve the tracks. Overall, they've been in a state of deterioration in many areas, and it's time to consider seeking grants to help the railroad rehabilitate tracks and crossings. That's certainly consistent with your regional transportation plan, which has a number of policies that talks about supporting the railroad. We've enumerated some of those in your staff report. The Sierra Railroad approached us earlier this month about being the lead agency on a grant through the Nationally Significant Freight and Highway projects program, they propose a $20 million project with about $13 million worth of match. That's in what you have in your packet here today. Those numbers are probably changing. Again, Mr. Gruber will be able to talk to that a little bit. But they can't simply pursue these funds on their own. They need a public agency to be the lead agency, and they've approached us to be that lead agency. There was some discussion about the county being the lead agency. We met with some department heads and Craig Pedro to talk about it. In the end, everybody seemed to concur that it made the most sense for the TCTC to be the lead agency, if they so choose, that is, if you so choose. We've certainly done these projects in the past, and what I would envision, like projects in the past, if we're successful in getting the grant, we would hire a consultant who specializes in rail projects. They'll look at how they plan on doing the project and the improvements. Is it consistent with federal Class 2 standards? What are the materials they're using? They'll be checking the materials. They'll be verifying all aspects of construction. They'll be looking at the invoices for funds to make sure they're consistent with what's in the ground, and then authorizing those bill pays. Our role in all that will be to hire the consultant, but also process a lot of paperwork to make it all happen. This is somewhat new to us because we haven't done a project like this in probably 2 decades, but we're up to the challenge. With that said, we're still awaiting a completed grant application. We were hoping to have it today, but it's just we're not quite there yet. And we do have a draft cooperative agreement that we forwarded to Sierra Railway, Sierra Northern Railway, I think is the way I'm supposed to put it. That's being reviewed. I put a resolution up on the dais for you, and we have extras in the back room for the public. And the resolution basically recognizes the need for improvements on the railroad, that there is a direct benefit to the public, and it quantifies the objectives of this work. It also proposes that we would go, that the TCTC, or excuse me, it resolves that the TCTC would indeed be the lead agency, and it authorizes it. This is the way I've set it for me to submit the grant application on behalf of the TCTC and the railroad, subject to finalization of a cooperative agreement, and basically allows the whole project to move forward based on actions today. Now, having said that, when I wrote the agenda, I was hoping to have a grant application and a cooperative agreement in front of you. So we have a couple options that I'll throw out. One is to adopt the resolution, and as long as staff is comfortable working with legal counsel and perhaps risk management, we go forward with the project and we execute the project with no further meetings. You can do that simply with this resolution. If it's your desire, you could go ahead and set a special meeting tonight for the week of the 23rd. I think Mr. Gruber has promised me everything to be completed no later than the 20th. Again, the deadline submittal is November 2nd, I believe, but I got staff going away, so we really need to have it that week of the 23rd if we're going to do a special meeting. Then there's a hybrid option, you could say. Pass this tonight. If staff feels the need for a special meeting, we'll convene the group for a special meeting, and that's the hybrid version of options available to you. So I think I've enumerated 3. I'd be happy to explain those if you like. But if I can answer any questions you have, but I'd also encourage you to hear from Mr. Gruber.
Remind us of those 3.
Okay, I'll recap in a minute.
John?
Just, you mentioned matching funds. Those matching funds would be paid by Sierra Railroad?
That's right.
Okay.
Ivan?
Just comments. Glad to see you guys trying to do something. Appreciate the opportunity to be supportive as a body here. I like option 3. It's my gut impression. If anybody has any comments, I'm happy to listen, but I think that gives us the most flexibility. Anytime we can do that, it's a good thing to help you guys do your jobs and move things along. So, reading through this resolution, everything looks good. I don't see any downsides or any risks on our part. If you guys feel the need for potential future public hearings or any kind of outreach, I guess that would be a good thing to give you the ability to pursue that. But requiring it from this, at this point in time, I don't see a need for it, and just giving you that flexibility seems to be the right thing. So that's my impression.
I would agree, and I think we need to make it clear that the cost of managing this will be paid through the grant. We're not taking funds that we have established in TCTC to do it. So just to clarify that.
Yeah, I did forward a budget from our side of things, and our estimate is we'll spend a little bit over $200,000 on consultants to do the construction management and whatnot, and a little bit under $100,000 in staff time, which cover my time, Laura's time, and some other administrative cost, as well as Denise's time and whatnot. So we've got all those things covered out of the grant. Won't cost you anything out of your budget, as best we can tell at this point in time.
If it does, you'll come back, right?
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I agree. I think the third option is the best option at this point. However, I'm really disappointed in the fact that we didn't get all the information that we need today to make a decision. And I know the railroad is busy with a lot of other stuff. We're all busy with a lot of other stuff. This seems like a real high priority on the railroad's part. Certainly a high priority for Tuolumne County, in my opinion. And I'm just kind of disappointed that we didn't have all that information together today to make the decision right now. I will also add that the Central Sierra Economic Development District voted at their last meeting to support this project, and that's other counties around the area. So it's an important project for the whole area.
And I just want to echo George's thoughts. I kind of, in that same respect as well. It would have been nice to have it a little ahead of time, because we being the lead agency, it's kind of our neck that's kind of out there first. So I hope that I'm in agreement with option 3. I think that's probably the best way to go, the hybrid. And I'm a big fan of rail. I think rail is what would really help our community much more. Hopefully things will work out and we won't have to come back for that special meeting.
So what's the new due date?
Well, the new due date is the 20th, but if at all possible, Paul's going to be getting us it earlier. So that's the new due date. That's the latest I can get it and be
that's my
comfortable things
concern.
can happen.
And you've heard from many up here that they're concerned that we don't have everything to evaluate the project, to vote on the project, more than likely to vote in favor of it. But we're kind of in that, and I'm concerned about that. I'm a guy that used to work projects with due dates, more investigations, not the kind of stuff you're working on, but I had to do due dates for the commissioner and chiefs, and you had to meet those due dates, otherwise your reputation started going down the hill and they found somebody else to do the work. And that's my concern, is the due date, because there was a previous due date and that was not met, and I think there might have been one more, and now we're looking at the 20th, and we're getting closer to November, despite, this year's been flying by, and that's my biggest concern with saying, yes, we'll put it on TCTC, ask them to bring it home. And I guess the question in my mind is, what happens if the October 20th due date isn't met?
If it's not met, it's going to be really hard for us to do our due diligence in terms of, reviewing the grant application, and having a cooperative agreement the legal counsel, risk management have looked at and feel comfortable with. It's going to be exceptionally hard at that point. It doesn't, and I'll just leave it at that. There are, perhaps next year there's another program, so any work that had been to that date wouldn't be lost per se, but that's a pretty hard date, and I'd really like to see it sooner than that date, but that's the latest I can make it. Yeah. So I think Paul would probably like to make some comments, so it wouldn't be appropriate.
Okay. This would be probably this time.
Yeah, well, Mr. Chairman, committee members, thanks very much for the opportunity to come speak about this very exciting project, and thanks, Darren, for the invitation as well. So maybe the punchline first, I'm disappointed as well. This is something we found out about pretty late. I work for Sierra Energy, primarily. So for the past year, I was up here working with Supervisor Randy Hanvelt on a bioenergy project. We have a waste gasification technology. I worked a bit with Supervisor Sherry Brennan as well, and David Gonzalez and Quincy Yaley and their team to look at a bioenergy project. We submitted and won $5 million from the California Energy Commission to do that project. In the end, when we looked at all the project economics and the complexity of biomass in this state, we had to decline the award, which was disappointing to us. But I mentioned it because I do have experience coming up here, and I love coming up to Sonora, in fact. And now we actually have a much easier project to write up and win, I think, and pursue. So, our apologies for not getting the information to you in the, the timeline that you guys require. Let me describe just briefly the rest of the timeline. So I think we will meet this, first fixed deadline in my mind of October 20th. We're putting this thing together really fast. I'm shifting attention from my energy gasification work to rail completely. So this is my full-time effort, and I'll introduce my team here in a second too. But November, we'll get you the material by October 20th. We'll work with you all that you need to, finalize and submit by November 2nd. And then, to my understanding, you'll still have time to review how this all went between November 2nd and July or so of next year, when we think DOT will award the funds. And then by the time we actually, should we be lucky enough to get this $20 or $25 million award from DOT, which is the budget range we're thinking about now, plus our commitment of $13 to $17 million in match from us specifically, we'll have until October, about a year from now, before that agreements are signed at the earliest, based on DOT's timeline. So I understand it's a total crunch, and I'm very thankful to Darren and the entire team here for working with us very quickly. I know you have other priorities too. This is a big one. We're getting back into grants. Our CEO and president of Sierra Railroad, Mike Hart, brought me on a year and a half ago to start developing our and going after these grants. So it's and rail is a bit new area for me. So maybe as that, with a quick introduction, I want to introduce the rest of my team that's here today. So Brenton McDonald works for Sierra Northern Railway. That's the subsidiary of our holding company, Sierra Railroad. So Sierra Northern Railway is the project entity here, operating the line from Riverbank up to Standard. And Brenton's in charge of safety and training, but he's really our CEO, Ken Beard's deputy. He's coming up to speed on all things rail. And then Amy Augustine, who I assume many of you know, we're also bringing on, and she's been working with us already to write and submit and win this grant. And the last time Amy worked with us was '96, right? So it's been a while, but we're getting back into the grants and getting back into these opportunities to help bring some benefits to our rail, but also some benefits to Tuolumne County. So, Brenton, maybe would you guys like to hear a real brief briefing on the Oakdale division operations, this whole line from Riverbank to Standard, or would you prefer we just stick with kind of the benefits as I see of this
I think
this
it might be a
application?
little helpful.
Okay.
Just give
Yeah,
us an
Brenton, you want to come up and maybe up here?
Gentlemen, thanks for taking the time to meet with us today and let us explain our case and try to win this grant over with your guys' help. As far as our Oakdale division run, we interchange as far as the national network with being at Burlington, Northern Santa Fe, and Riverbank. Union Pacific interchanges with us here in Oakdale. And between those two, and they're known as Class 1 railroads, they're the bigger major carriers in the country. Between those two, we any and all types of commodity can come in and out by rail. So coming up the Oakdale line, the newest big addition to our rail line out here is the Coopertown Rock Quarry. We are actually completely done with that track construction. All we are merely waiting on at this point is Fisher Industries, the operator of that quarry, to finish up with their end customer. Currently, there's one customer in the Bay Area that once they start shipping, we're talking 51-car unit trains, which, that's just the first opportunity. Once that grows, we're looking anywhere from 1 to 4 trains a week just with that new customer we brought on this year. Coming further up the line, which of course it's more the upper half of the line that we're really interested in really with this infrastructure upgrade project. JS West here in town is a huge propane provider for you guys, and actually this year we finished a track construction upgrade project as well as they finished a facility upgrade to where now they are doing predominantly rail operations as far as their shipments coming in. It used to be trucked out of the Bay Area, but now it's exclusively rail with this new upgraded facility. So that being said, we've already expanded that operation, and that's going to be almost 200% just this year alone over last year as far as increased rail traffic up here. And then, of course, there is Sierra Pacific Industries, who we have Chinese, is where they have a mill as well as up here at the end of our line where they ship out bigger lumber products. But that's just currently where we're at. And as far as future growth development, this line has the most potential. And with this infrastructure upgrade project, we can definitely market it that much more when it comes to bringing in more local businesses onto the national rail network.
Just a thought about the problems we had with Cooperstown Quarry and Riverbank. I hope we addressed that early on.
Yes, and unfortunately, we've all heard the stories and the fallout from that whole situation and the agreement to what happened with the Riverbank issue there. But yeah, I know that was more exclusive, the rock quarry project and the people that were managing that whole company coming in and getting that off the ground. But of course, what we have here, the increased traffic, part of this grant would also, we mentioned crossing upgrades and rehabilitation. That's one of their bigger concerns is, condition of crossing and public safety, which is one thing we are definitely interested in improving too. So, with all this in mind, there should be no issue when it comes to the city of Riverbank.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
If I could add on to that, we have been working with Carlin Dribdahl, who's very familiar with the settlement agreement, and she doesn't see any conflicts with the settlement agreement and what we're proposing to do.
Okay.
And we've actually made efforts, particularly Paul, to reach out to some of those communities west of us to make sure that they are supportive of this project.
Okay.
So a few more highlights, if it would be useful for the committee. I've reached out to City of Riverbank City Manager and City of Oakdale, Stanislaus County Supervisors, StanCog. Everyone's been supportive. They've raised the prior history as a concern. They definitely want to see benefits in their city at these crossings, and that's the exact intent of this grant and our intentions. So as you probably understand, it's an upgrade project across all 55 miles of our rail line. That includes replacing a lot of rail ties, replacing rail, upgrading up to 15 crossings. We're honing that number now and understanding what's required at each crossing. And then we had previously put 10 bridges or 15 bridges, but it's just going to be a handful of bridges, we think. We have a new bridge assessment report that just came out last month that's perfect timing for this, and we can devote some of the funds we would seek for bridge revitalization to more track work. So the whole purpose here is to increase the grade of the class rating of the track to class 2, so we can go from our very slow, up to 10 mile per hour speed currently up to 25 miles per hour. That just allows for a lot more cost-effective freight. We also can take more carloads per trip, per train. So we're looking at increasing our freight capacity by 400% minimum across the entire line. What we'll see from the quarry down the hill to Oakdale and Riverbank is even more freight capacity. There's a lot of potential movement there. So with the quarry coming online, we're seeing a lot of potential in new carloads, more JS West fuel, as Brenton was saying, and then there's some additional customers, which we'll provide some details in the application so you can see. There's just a lot of potential to move more freight. And with increasing populations, increasing demand for goods movement, our argument is that if you're going to see additional demand, additional freight movement, do it via rail. And the only way for us to help in this region is to upgrade this track to provide that opportunity to move that additional freight via rail and not in trucks. So a huge freight capacity improvement. We're looking at a 5-year project. We conduct a lot of the work ourselves, but we'd also build up our team, hiring in the local regions. So there's some job opportunities here. There are construction jobs. There are rail operations jobs, conductors and engineers. We'd work first, first couple years from the quarry down the hill, and the next years 3, 4, and 5 coming up the hill, up to standard, generally. That plan and schedule is getting organized now in the application. And as you know, TCTC is the eligible entity to submit for us. Amy Augustine's going to help with the CEQA and NEPA requirements. Since this is federal funding, we have to comply with NEPA in particular, but also CEQA, and with the cost-benefit analysis section. Folks in Stanislaus County have already sent preliminary information on what a $20 million construction project means for their county and jobs created and indirect economic benefits. I'll look to Darren and the team here. We'll prepare a straw man for what we think the cost-benefit analysis and economic development improvements will be, but we'll certainly require or look to have some input in the next week and a half from you guys. And then I did bring a brief update to what you have in your packet. What's the best way to pass this around? Maybe Brenton, do you mind submitting it? Or Darren? Okay. This is, there are 9, so there should be plenty for all the committee members. This is a brief update. I just wanted to give you a sense. We're starting to build out what we think the benefits to, the public benefits, and benefits to industry, benefits to the counties will be. So at the bottom of this, briefing is a table with those benefits described. Up above, you'll see the goal and objectives are taking shape here. And those benefits are public for the counties, for our rail customers, for ourselves. Generally, we're seeing, chiefly with this increase in freight capacity, an increase in the economic potential of the region. We're saving rail customers money. Their freight can ship more rapidly. End consumers, end customers, users of JS West propane, for example, are getting that propane more quickly. And with new goods demanded by increasing populations in this region, we'll be able to ship that freight more quickly. Yes, question?
One of the issues we face is transportation of garbage out of the county. I know that there's some cities that do rail movement. I don't know where it's going. Supervisor Royce asked me where. I don't know, but I know it's being moved that way, and if it's something that may be possibly be looked at in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I've talked with Belinda Barlow here. So the previous project I worked on to do a bioenergy waste biomass to electricity project for our region could also incorporate MSW. Unfortunately, the terms of the CEC agreement just didn't make the project, it was too restrictive. It was not economical for us. But the supervisors here in the county and David Gonzalez, Belinda Barlow, their teams are very keen to have our Sierra Energy waste gasification technology someday be implemented in the county to help you save on that very high transport cost and tip fee that you're paying to ship all the way down to Modesto, I think, is where the trash is going. Or Merced, yeah. So we will include that on this application as a future potential benefit, and that we also have our technology will be proven. Our first system's coming online at Fort Hunter Liggett in Monterey County by end of this year. So we'll have some data. We've got project developers looking at those type projects. For this application, we'll include as a future potential project to where MSW, municipal solid waste, could be transported via rail, much closer. You've got the industrial park right along our rail line down where Pacific Ultra Power is. Mm-hmm. That could be a likely spot for such a plant. But that's a few years away still before we're really ready, I think, to build that out. I do want to mention we have a few letters of endorsement. This is just one copy, but we have 4 or 5 letters of endorsement already. Oh, okay. From Joel Plume at Plum Construction, Patrick Embry at Cooperstown Rock Quarry, Larry Cope here with your Economic Development Authority, and some citizens and developers. And I expect at least another 10 letters of support. I've gotten verbal and email endorsements, a lot that Larry Cope is working on, and Supervisor Randy Helmvelt from the Central Sierra Economic Development District. As you mentioned, they voted to support this project. The Business Council, Real Estate Board, Visitors Bureau, those are all ones that Randy's working on. Larry's working on getting other current and potential customers to sign on board to this because they'll see good benefits. Blue Mountain Minerals, Diestel Turkey, Fisher, IHI Power, Services, and the Sierra Pacific Industries with their 2 mills along our line. So I'm working closely with Craig Pedro and with Darren here to ensure we get this to you guys by October 20th. And then we're available, obviously, through November 2nd to submit. We have a pretty well fleshed out narrative, the bulk of the proposal already. We're honing the budget. That's pretty well fleshed out now. I've got the administrative costs from Darren. The cooperative agreement, as Darren mentioned, is being reviewed by our general counsel. He and I are going to sit down tomorrow and look through that here very quickly. And that, I believe, that's all I have. So I'm happy to answer other questions. Thank you very much for the opportunity. We know it's coming up really fast and not on the timeline you guys would like, but we're going to work very diligently here to get you a full application.
Anything else? Any public comment?
I'm glad I wore my boots today. So I was really disappointed when the Sierra Energy bioenergy project did not go through, because we won that $5 million and then we had to give it back. And you could present it any way you want, but as a member of the public who wasn't privy to confidential conversations, you screwed up. And now here we are again, and you've got 8 bazillion letters and 8 bazillion excuses and all these things you got done, but the paperwork you really needed to get here isn't here. And now you're asking these people to vote and put themselves on the line for you. And I'm going to say no, because I don't feel like enabling this. This is a big deal, and there's no excuse for not having everything done in a timely fashion so that you have the information to do your due diligence. And then what I heard Darren say was he was approached earlier this month. You got to be kidding me. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Perhaps not a comment, it's more of a question. When I think of the Sierra Railroad, I think of the park, the Railtown 1897, and the benefits that that facility brings to the county and the ridership. Is any part of this grant beneficial to that operation as well?
Can I go ahead? I mean, maybe Britton would be more well apprised of that. Thanks.
Yeah, as far as the benefit of the Railtown, Jamestown operation that I know you guys locally, it's a nice, draw in as far as the tourist business and whatnot. Us upgrading our rail line would allow that potential operation to increase what they do. So right now, they are only allowed to go out 3 miles on their track on their excursion trains. Once this whole upgrade project is complete, there's nothing that stops them from potentially running all the way down to Oakdale if they really wanted to. That's up for them to really kind of come to fruition with their ideas or what they want to do. Or bringing them up here. So, granted, it's only 25-mile-an-hour track at best when we're done, but there is the opportunity for potential tourist or passenger travel between Oakdale all the way up to Sonora here. So yes, there is a potential benefit to their operation there once upon completion of this project.
So even though the focus is commercial, there is a passenger benefit.
There is a potential passenger benefit. Now, I wouldn't say it's going to be a mass transit, light rail potential, but there is a potential more tourist benefit there between the two
like the
entities.
dinner tray some years ago.
Exactly, yes,
Okay.
sir. So, all right, thank you.
Make sure that was in your application.
Duke, you have to be up here.
Okay.
Sorry. And we'll get there.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other public comments? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back for a motion. I think it was option 3.
Yes, I'll make a motion to move forward with option 3. And despite any shortcomings there may have been in the past, I just want to say we support you and we encourage you. This is a wonderful vision and opportunity for both you guys and the county. So I hope we get it done, and I hope we'll do anything we can to help.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just clarify, would that include approval of Resolution 575-17?
Yes.
Thank you.
Second.
So, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Looks like the motion carries. So have it here on the 20th.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you all very much.
Or sooner.
Sooner, right.
Yeah, sooner would be better. Looks like item 10, approval of project proposal from, Wood Rogers and Associates to coordinate a pedestrian safety project on State Route 49, Washington Street with the City of Sonora and Caltrans, facilitate public input, and prepare a 2018 Active Transportation Program grant application.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as many of you know, we've had a few pedestrian accidents out on Highway 49. One, a young boy on a bicycle down Stockton 49 intersection, Washington Street intersection. And then more recently, we had one with a young lady in the crosswalk pushing a stroller that was hit by an elderly man. And that has raised a lot of public concerns about pedestrian safety in the downtown area. This is a long-standing issue that's really kind of simmered more recently. And in response to that, Mayor Williams, at our last meeting, asked if the TCTC staff would work with Caltrans staff and city staff, for that matter, to put together some sort of project that's been coordinated between all those agencies. And in doing so, we recognize that there's an upcoming call for projects from the Active Transportation Program. We expect that to occur in January, February. And that would be the time we could maybe secure funding for a project. So if we're going to want to improve safety out there, we need to put together a project. Vision Sonora creates a good concept for what could be out there in terms of bulb outs and safer crosswalks. But it could include other things like lighting improvements or other things. And those all need to be vetted out. You'll see an attachment that from Wood Rogers, that's their proposed scope of work. Wood Rogers is already on retainer. We have a 3-year agreement with them to do these types of work for us. And we also have funding in our budget. It's part of our overall work program to do this type of work. We got about a $49,000 budget for these types of activities, going after grants for bicycle pedestrian projects. The basic outline of the scope of work would include Wood Rogers doing some background investigations, accumulating data, then helping us with a meeting with the city, Caltrans, perhaps law enforcement folks, the key staff, and perhaps even elected official or two, to kind of sort out what the project would look like on a concept level. They would then have a public meeting to get public input on the project, present it to the city council for direction. If the city council supports the project and would like to move forward, they would then develop a Active Transportation Program grant application and allow us to move forward with the submittal in early next year for the Active Transportation Program grants. So we think this is really the best approach to addressing public safety or pedestrian safety in the Washington Street downtown area. I would note that the city already has funding for safety improvements related to the bus stop improvement project. It's at the light down at Stockton, Washington Street, and they're recommended for funding for pedestrian improvements out at Red Church. This would be everything in between. All those crosswalks in between is the kind of the general scope that we're looking at. I think anytime you can fill in a gap between other projects that have recently been funded, it looks really good to grant reviewers. So I think this would be a very competitive grant in the end, and I would recommend that you authorize staff to go forward. Generally, this might even been within the scope of my, because it's already in the budget, it's already in the work program, I could have probably just went forward with this, but I think because it's $28,000, it's best to come to this council. I lost a week of time in doing so, but that's okay.
I think George has a question.
I want attention. Darren, it's my understanding that they would come back to us with several different concepts of what we might do out there on Washington Street? I mean, they're not going to come back and say, here's what we decided we're going to do, and now you just need to live with it. Am I wrong?
It's a little hard to say exactly how we're going to go. I don't think we're pushed into one answer. There are different options about how you treat crosswalks. Some people like flashing crosswalks, other people like painted crosswalks, some people like bulb outs, some people don't. So I think they'll flesh out kind of the main ideas in the community and look for the city council to kind of make the decision on what project would move forward. And then they would go forward with developing the scope, schedule, and cost.
In their proposal, there's a public meeting scheduled, and so I would imagine that at that time, the public would have an opportunity to agree or disagree or suggest something different than what the report is at that point?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in the end, you want to have some level of public support going into your grant application. Not only city council support, but maybe letters from the city chamber of commerce and whatnot.
Well, recently, as you know, I think, the merchants in downtown Sonora are very concerned about the safety of the pedestrians crossing Washington Street, and we need to do something there.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, agreed.
Public comment?
Just one quick comment. Pedestrians crossing and also people getting in and out of cars when they're parking. I've noticed a lot of close calls there. I don't know what you can do about that, but it's definitely an issue. Something to think about.
Well, I've requested some public education on how to be a safe and responsible pedestrian. And then we had the SPD, CHP cooperation on giving lots of tickets. But many of you know I'm out in the morning. I have my reflective shoes. I have my bright yellow shirt. I have my jacket with the 3 reflective stripes. It was, 8 this morning. The sun was out. I had the white pedestrian walk thing there at Stockton Road and Washington Street, and this guy nearly ran me over. I mean, I don't know how I can make myself more visible, because he didn't realize, I guess, I was in the crosswalk. So I've been asking for over a year to look at our pedestrian safety issues, so I highly support this. I don't end up there.
Good afternoon to Miller City of Sonora. First, I'd like to thank Darren for the suggestion to use the funds to develop a grant application for this segment of Washington Street that really is bookended by 2 projects that are currently funded and would complete that portion of Washington and that portion of the state highway. It is a project that we anticipated that we would undertake at some point, and this just gives us the opportunity to do it that much sooner in light of the concerns of the pedestrian safety in the area. So I would ask for your favorable consideration. And I would like to also share with you, I just got a notice of a change order amount for the paving augmentation that you gave us to the money that we had available to do that paving work on Mona Way. It looks like we're going to be able to afford to do the project with the funds we have available and the money that you guys made available. So we thank you for that as well. Any questions, I'd be happy to respond.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lori Lehman. I live downtown Sonora, and I work on the Vision Design Review Committee. I've been working on it for years, and I'm really excited to, we've been working to have shovel-ready projects for when money becomes available. So here's a possibility that money comes available, and really appreciate Darren coming forward with these ideas, and I hope that you will support it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other public comment? Bring it back to the council.
And Mr. Chairman, I'll move to authorize staff to move forward with the SR 49 Washington Street ATP pedestrian safety project, including approval of preparation of grant application by Wood Rogers consistent with the 2017-18 overall work program.
Second.
I have no idea who got that one in. That sounded like a tie, but I don't like ties.
Well, why don't you give it to me? That will look like they're in collusion to get that.
I like that idea.
Yes.
That was just, usually I can tell. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And with that, we're on to reports.
Just one real quick report today. Friday, we'll be hearing from the state on what their recommendations are for funding of the Interregional Transportation Improvement Program. We submitted a $1 million request to Caltrans for that to consistent with the relinquishment agreement that the county has excuse me. It'd be consistent with the relinquishment agreement to do the Monoway operational safety project. So we'll know on Friday if we get that funding. It's only a little $1 million. That's all we're asking for.
Very nice. Is that the only report?
That's it.
Oh. Carl, you're up. Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a big pile of papers and a short list of things. Our grant deadline is October 20th. I think everyone's aware of that, for the augmentation of the Sustainable Communities grants and the climate adaptation grants. The second thing I wanted just to reiterate that all of those programs that Darren reviewed for SB1 are still in process. Some of the guidance is out, some of them the guidance is draft, some there's still ongoing outreach. All of that is available on the CTC website, California Transportation Council. Simply Google CTC SB1 and they have an implementation schedule, all the information you can need there if you want to get the details. We got a kind of an attaboy from FHWA for the district for inactive obligations. That's essentially money awarded to projects from FHWA that the inactive means you haven't been invoicing, you've gone on the list, and they don't like to see that, obviously. The money's out there, people need to be using it, and essentially we came out top in the state from the districts in making sure that the money that's out there is working and getting the projects done.
Mr. Chairman, if I could jump in for just a minute. Tuolumne County used to regularly be on that list of that had projects that weren't moving. Tanya Allen gets huge, and Duke too, get huge kudos for getting projects through the process in a timely way. They're doing a great job.
Oh, good to know. Thank you.
Did Darren already mention the public meeting for the ATP application that the district is putting together for Groveland? The date of that is October 26th. I don't have the time with me. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is in association with Yarts, Dick Whittington has announced his retirement. So anyone that's worked with Yarts knows that Dick Whittington is he's a big mover for Yarts, and that'll be a big loss, but I'm sure they'll keep it going. So,
is there any idea who's taking his place?
No, I don't.
No. Okay.
He hired an assistant.
Cindy Kelly works.
Cindy Kelly. I think she's going to be taking over. Dick is going to kind of do a part-time status.
Okay. So that's all I had to report, unless there's questions.
Carl, at the last City Merchants Forum, we discussed the reprogramming of the stoplight at Stockton and Washington. Unanimous thumbs up on the timing. if anything, they'd like to see it even longer for the pedestrian to get across.
Okay.
I warned them they'd have to talk to you about that, but thanks for doing that. And I don't know, would you like a letter saying that we support the way it's reprogrammed, or is this verbally is okay as far as you're concerned?
There's no need to do that.
Okay.
As long as there's not a concern with changing it, then we can let that go. If you want to send a kudos letter to the district, then that would be great. Electrical Systems got out there and made the change. They made it. We had the meeting, and I think it was a Friday, and he said, "Oh, I'll get out there this afternoon and do it." So anyway, it was good service, and that's always a good thing to acknowledge, but there's no need to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a brief report regarding some upcoming events that we're going to be doing. The Jamestown Promotion Club, we're going to be doing a presentation for the projects in the Jamestown area. That would include the Rawhide Road Bridge update, Fifth Avenue project, and the Rural 20A projects. Also on Wednesday, and that's Thursday, October 12th at 5 p.m. in the Community Hall. On Wednesday, October 18th, there will be a presentation at the Lake Don Pedro Hacienda. I know, John, you're well aware of this one. We have a county service area number 3 down there that is really part of Lake Don Pedro Unit number 1. It receives ad valorem money, and we will be doing a presentation on the use of those funds on those road systems. They accumulate at a very slow rate, and unfortunately, you have to wait many years to accumulate sufficient funds to actually do some work. Thursday, October 19th, we'll have Rich Mull right here in this room and be doing a presentation, be filmed by Jim Garventa right there to show on Channel 8. And it talks about erosion control throughout the county, and we're making a point to invite all of the local contractors and active grading permit holders and quite a variety of people, including staff, that will be there and be present. What's that? Yes, that is October 19th at 8:15 a.m. We will be filming it and showing it at 3 different times on Channel 8. I think Des got with you on that.
And also we have Cable 8 as a YouTube channel, so we'll be putting it on YouTube.
Oh, right on. How long is it planned for?
The presentation takes a little over an hour, and then there's usually a question and answer period at the end. Yeah, and the thing that's nice about Rich Mull is that not only does he deal with construction activity or construction permits, general construction permits, he's also does all of the commercial and industrial permits in our area as well. So he's very well versed in both aspects of the permitting process from the state. So I thought I'd brought along my Board of Supervisors agenda for this coming for the 17th, and I'll try to do it from memory. Some of the projects that are going to be up for approval are the Hardin Flat Bridge, the Park and Ride in Tuolumne, there's the Yankee Hill project. There's also putting out to bid for the design work for the Deer Creek Bridge on Ward's Ferry. And there's one more, unfortunately, I forgot that agenda, so anyhow, that is all.
Any other reports? You guys good? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.